Welcome back, guys, to episode 15.
Today we're going to be talking about baitcasters versus fixed spools and all the benefits and downfalls of therewith.
Yeah, don't look at me because we're still playing with the tech.
Have you noticed? Yeah, we've had some revelations today. It's good, we're getting there. By about season 12, we'll be absolutely spot on.
It's getting crisper.
Yeah, it is getting crisper.
Yeah, we know what we're doing more. I've still got this thing in my hand that I need to put somewhere because I can't pick up the rods and do this, but we'll give it a go.
Possibly.
So,
oh, no, I'm not getting involved with that, actually.
Yeah, because...
That's a terrible idea.
Okay, so what we... oh, my Lord.
Don't break something, please.
What we look at is... you see a lot of people using baitcasters, but do they use them in the right application?
Yep. And I have to admit, I've been guilty of that at times in the past because baitcasters look cool.
They do look cool.
Yeah.
But where does the coolness overcome the practicality?
Yeah. What did they say? It was baitcasters for show, fixed ball for pro.
Well, I mean...
but let's argue that. Let's offer a counter to that.
If you're using a heavy rod with big baits, you can't use a fixed ball rod.
No, you could, but it's painful almost, isn't it?
You drop your finger off.
Oh, yeah. I often think that I see people using, not even really big baits, sort of 60 to 80 grams, which is a relatively big bait, with fixed balls. I think, how can you do that without a finger stall to at least save your finger a little bit? I couldn't do it. So, yeah, I think for me, anything over sort of 60-ish grams, I'm wanting a baitcaster.
I'm trying to think what 60 grams is in size.
It's 2 ounces-ish, isn't it? Yeah.
So 14 centimetre shad.
Yeah, maybe they're probably 45 to 50. So
that's my maximum. Really, it starts to hurt my finger.
Yeah.
So I use baitcasters with bigger baits, just basically because it's using your thumb pressure on the spool to cast, not putting your finger around the braid and chopping your finger off.
Cut you in half like cheese wire.
And also the retrieve, because the retrieve's slow on a baitcaster compared to a fixed spool. So you can actually get, particularly big baits, really nice slow rolling action. More control.
Yeah. I think control is one of the overriding factors for me, and that sort of applies across the board as well with the other bits and pieces. But control, I feel like you're in line with it as well, a bit more with a big bait. Like it just feels more natural with a baitcaster. I feel like if with a fixed ball, you're cranking too much, and you can lose your speed quite easily. With this, it feels a bit more natural. It's all in line. It's all where it needs to be.
So we're saying with big baits...
big baits, I don't think there's any argument.
You have to use a baitcaster.
Yeah, in my mind, I think anything over sort of 50 to 60 grams, I'm on a baitcaster. I think people are scared of them.
Yeah.
People definitely get scared of them. And there is. Don't get me wrong, fixed ball, you can pretty much pick it up out the packet and use it. There's no tuning involved. There's a certain amount of tuning involved with a bait casting reel. I'm
going to show people how to set one up properly.
Yeah.
I've just remembered that's a good idea because you all these things are natural because we've had to learn.
That's it.
Because we've all had what are they bird's nest? What do they call them?
Bird's nest.
Backlash.
Yeah.
The American term, and you have to go through this kind of learning process, and it's really easy to set up.
Yeah, and there's a few really handy little tricks that I picked up. One of the ones that I picked up, especially if you're using a reel that's got mags, so it's got magnets. A reel, and this isn't a hard and fast rule, but as a good starting point, when you're setting it up, one of the things that I got taught a long time ago, hold the rod out in front of you. My left hand's got this one there. Hold the rod out in front of you, release the spool. When the lure hits the floor, the reel should stop spinning. If it's still spinning, the mags or the brakes, they're too loose, and that's how you get overruns. Obviously, that's a really basic starting point. You can tune it to your own needs from there. But if you're new to baitcaster fishing, start like that and work your way in. And then as you get more and more confident, you can dial back the brakes and you can cast that a little bit further. But as a good starting point, that one, if it hits the floor and the spool stops, that's where you should start.
I'm going to do this on one of the videos, but I'm going to show you're half right because you have. I can never remember what these are called. What's that one called? The brake.
That's your spool tensioner.
What's that one called?
That's your brake.
Right. So I do it the other way around. I set this for beginners. I say if it's got 0 to 10, put on 5, and then with this one, do what you just said.
Yeah.
So when you release it, if it doesn't overrun, and then this one's for your wind.
Yeah. So you can tune it to wind, to
So
conditions.
if you've got a headwind,
yeah,
it needs to be cranked up.
Yeah.
If you've got a backwind, you can crank it down.
Yeah.
Because it reduces the speed of the spool when it's under less tension.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's how I use the two. But it's easier to show people because I connect like with lures. I can't remember what they're called because I don't need to know.
No. Yeah.
Oh, how funny!
My first interactions with not even baitcasters, multipliers, as we called them, was through sea fishing. Beach casting.
Oh yeah. How'd you get on?
Not very well. Which is hence why I now use a 15-foot thick spool.
It's Monday, isn't it?
It is Monday. You're getting your bins collected.
No, they come on a Thursday.
Oh, how inconsiderate.
So what's that going on then?
It is bins. I can hear them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I thought this is brilliant. I watched the likes of Danny Moscop's caster a lead on a beach caster a million miles, and I thought I can do that. I can't, but I tell you what I can do is I can whack a lead on a big continental fixed ball rod a long way. So I got put off the idea of baitcasters there because I went into it uneducated. I bought I got given a pair of Abu 6.5 Mag Elite Pros, the green ones, and they was all had magnets, and there was CT converted, so they didn't have a level wind, so for maximum distance. I thought this is brilliant. I'm going to cast 250 yards, and I cast about 30 yards into a big bird's nest.
I was going to say, so how do they get around that? The tournament casters.
So they actually they call them knobby mags. So they adjust the mags mid-cast.
With the thumb?
No, with a dial. So they'll cast and they'll hold the rod up like they're shooting it, and as it's going, as the cast is slowing down, they'll adjust the mags mid-cast. Wow. Yeah.
Right,
there's so much technique to it.
That would drive me insane.
Yeah.
Let's go to the other end of the spectrum.
Yep.
BFS.
Yeah.
Do I also
you got it right?
I just get this so wrong, don't I?
Yeah, you said BSF usually, but you got it right today.
So this is one of my BFS setups. Is that an Alphas there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So really nice little reel. Kendo something rod.
Surinoya?
Yeah, that's Surinoya. Yeah. So it weighs nothing.
Yeah.
So got a very light nanofil on here. Can't remember what diameter.
Oh, you've got nanofil on there.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And they are buggers to cast with.
Yeah, they are.
Let's be honest.
They are. You're right. I like them for really light stuff, especially for like flicking under things. So if you're fishing under bridges and on canals and you're pitching and flipping, then I like a baitcaster. And for the really light stuff, I feel like it's all in your hand. So it just feels a bit more natural when you're moving things on the bottom.
It's okay if you can actually... What's the cast called where you load the rod tip and...
I don't know.
This is terminology. So if I can cast it that way, left or right, I don't mind, or even overhead.
Yeah.
But if I've got to pitch, nightmare.
Oh, really?
Because it's getting that tension in the rod tip and getting it to shoot out. Tom Moore is really good at it.
So do you know what I found was a game changer for me with that? It's holding the lure.
Yeah, and pinging it.
Yeah. That's where it all. And the other thing which I found when you're using really light setups that took me a long while to understand is you don't need the drop that you would do with a heavier setup, even with a heavier baitcasters. You can virtually cast with the lure on the rod tip, and it's a bit more of a flick than it is a full load up. Because you're not going to load the rod up because you're only casting a couple of grams. And it's a totally different action to your cast than it is with a heavier setup. So it takes some getting used to. But I do like that. The reality of it is, for me, I don't use it very often because a lot of the fishing I do, there's pike present and it's just not, I can't be bothered.
I've had them to £14 on it.
Oh, I can't be asked.
I tell you what, if you can get that full compression,
they
come in real quick.
Yeah.
You just got to be a bit brave.
But I will only use fluorocarbon.
It was with fluorocarbon.
No, I mean straight through.
Oh, right. Okay, so that's interesting.
Yeah.
So when I've used fluorocarbon on there, because you get this compression.
And you get memory to it.
And you get memory. Yeah. And when you cast, it then makes the spool accelerate because it's working a bit like an elastic band.
It's trying to pull itself
and you
off.
get even more tangles.
Yeah, yeah. But I just got used to fishing with fluorocarbon straight through. And actually, I find a lot of the techniques you're fishing with BFS, it's slow moving. So you're bouncing things on the bottom. And with braid, especially if you're fishing like a slack line, you don't often, it's so fine in diameter, that it sort of pulls through the water before you get an indication that you've had a bite. Whereas with fluorocarbon, even on a slack line, it tends to pull direct. So if you get a bite, you tend to feel it a bit quicker with a fluorocarbon than you would do a braid when you're fishing those slack line techniques. If you're fishing on a straight line technique, straight retrieving, then braid's superior, obviously.
So out here, this is the only place where BFS is out here.
Yeah.
I'm a bit bored in the winter. If you use fluorocarbon, you snag virtually every cast.
Well, it's
laying low in the water.
Yeah.
If you use braid or nanofil,
it's above it.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
I would never have believed with such light lines the difference would be so marked. It's about 3-4 foot deep. It's full of snags and it's full of tampons, underwear, bin liners, dog bags,
all the fun stuff,
trolleys, willow branches. If you don't use fluorocarbon or if you don't use braid or nanofil, you lose so much gear, which adds to the snags.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not a fan.
You don't like it, do you? No. But would you do something, you don't need to sort of light fishing anyway, do you? So it's not really your cup of tea anyway.
I find it boring.
But what I'm saying is,
it's a bit like drop shotting.
Yeah. but it's the technique, not necessarily the equipment you don't like, isn't it?
No, it's the same as drop shotting. If I'm getting bites, I like it.
Yeah.
If I'm going the whole day to catch 2 or 3 little perch,
it's
just like, what am I doing? I'd rather spend the whole day trying to catch one big perch. With me mentality.
Yeah.
If I'm catching 20 or 30 perch on this gear, it's brilliant fun.
Yeah.
But
But would you prefer to do it with a fixed ball?
No, I prefer to do it with this. But it's all about getting the on BFS. To me, it's all about getting the bites.
So do you know what we've had the discussion in the past about how with fly fishing you can have a day where you catch nothing, but you feel like you've fished well.
Yeah.
Do you think it's similar with this? If you've cast well and it hasn't frustrated you, haven't end up with 100 tangles,
you can do,
I think you could still have an enjoyable day where you feel like, I was really accurate with my casting. It was all the places I wanted to put the bait. Didn't catch any fish or didn't catch many fish, but I still enjoy myself. That's what I like about this sort of BFS style fishing.
Yeah, and also, like fly fishing, you have to have a manana approach.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you get frustrated, you get more and more backlashes, and you just kind of...
Yeah.
I was going out using fluorocarbon, taking 2 or 3 50-metre spools of fluorocarbon with me, because I get into so many... I just take it all off, reload it a fresh load, because fresh fluorocarbon casts like a dream.
Yeah.
But
then it's got memory.
Since it's got memory, disaster.
Yeah.
It causes problems.
Do you know what's interesting though? So within the freshwater fishing world, this sort of BFS style with a baitcaster is probably more popular than fishing with a ultralight spinning reel, like a fixed spool. But if you go to saltwater and you start talking NRF, nobody uses these. And they're using 0.1 of a gram and size 15 hooks. Everybody's using fixed spools. Why? Why is it so popular with this light fishing in freshwater?
I think I know.
Go on. Yeah.
I think you're casting further.
Well, no, often with NRF, you're not. You're under your feet.
But you're the coast with the wind.
Yeah.
So I reckon the wind and casting further is a nightmare with baitcasters.
Yeah, it's true.
What have we got here? I tell you what we have got here. We've got an unholy tangle. Because this is.
What have you done?
Oh look! What the hell have I got on there? I was doing something magical with my drop shotting rod.
Big offset hook.
Don't know what I was doing there, but that's got nanofil as well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. What's the Brighton guy offshore?
Robin Howard. Yeah.
Uses nanofil, doesn't he?
Yeah, for everything, yeah.
So I've been nanofil so much nicer on your fingertips.
Yes, true.
Braid.
Yeah.
So I'm a drop shot, and here I've got nanofil on here as well.
Do you not find the nanofil phrase quite a bit though, especially when you cast where your casting finger sits? You know, you get that, it roughs up. Do you not find that with nanofil? I found that with nanofil I've used in the past, although it could have been. Are you all right? What have you got there?
I don't know. No, it's not. A loop. I don't know. That's got a nice coating on it.
Right.
I don't know. I think I probably have a spare spool and just put it on the drop shot rod.
Yeah.
It's never going to get used.
I do like nanofil. It's a funny material. If anyone doesn't know what nanofil is, it's sort of a hybrid between a fluorocarbon and a braid. It is actually a braided fluorocarbon, is it not? It's fibres of fluorocarbon that are braided.
You've just got to be careful when you tie your knots.
Yeah, because it's very slippery.
Yeah.
And you need, what I tend to just double the line over, and it tends to bite in a bit better. So if it,
What size, is that 1,000?
Looks like it. Daiwa's always a little bit of a funny one. I'm not familiar with Daiwa.
I think it is.
1,000 or it's a 1,500 at max.
That's 2,000.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But lovely light reel.
Yeah.
But you don't have any of the issues that you have
No.
with the Baitcaster.
No. And I think when you do, it's a bit.
Oh, it's done it again.
What are you doing?
It's got a loop.
You're like me. I love a tangle.
I don't know. That's how often that gets used.
Yeah. But like, there's also applications where, like, you could have a day wandering a canal or river with a little BFS set up and be very relaxed about it, and it's okay if you get the odd tangle and things like that. It's not really a problem. But if you're on a boat on a big windswept resi, do you want to be picking bird's nest out of a little light bait caster all day, or just want to fish and just use the fixed spools that work and do what they need to do?
I'm sure this lady won't mind telling this tale. So when I did Xandermania, I didn't have a partner for the first day because of circumstance, really.
Yeah.
And then Ellie, bless her, said she'd come and help out on the second day. Mm-hmm. And she's got some lovely rods with all baitcasters, but she was really struggling to get any distance with baits that we were using on a boat. Yeah. And she just said to me, Andy, I need to get some fixed spool reels, don't I? I said, yeah, if you're going to do any serious resi fishing, you need fixed spool reels. And this is the difference, really. Apart from when you go real heavy, you've got to have stuff like this. Mm-hmm. There is an exception, though, that I'm playing with.
Yep. This is a DC reel.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't really go and buy one of these. However, won this in Perch Mania last year.
Mm-hmm. What was it, the Metanium?
It's the Metanium, yeah. And I put this on...
I don't know, I've got choked with rods here.
I put this one on a LMAB Rodfather for the money guys. Bloody brilliant rod.
We had a little play with it, didn't we? I really like it as well. It's a very crisp action rod. I actually really like this rod. And I've got to say, not being my rod, it's funny when you pick someone else's rod up because you're not used to the nuances of it and their setup, how they set the reels today. Everyone's got their own way like casting. I picked this up and pinged it straight away because again, if anyone doesn't know what DC is, it's a model of Shimano reels that basically it's an intelligent reel, essentially. It knows when it's about to overrun and sort of self-correct.
It's amazing. So let me tell you how I set it up. So I read I actually read the instructions. Normally I don't read the instructions on these things. And in here, rather than having like a dial, one dial, it's got a setting for, it says braid, mono, fluorocarbon. So you just think, hold on, I've got to trust.
Yeah, it knows. Yeah.
So I've got braid on here, so it's on the braid setting, and that's all you do on the magnet side. Yeah. And you just adjust the brake. So that's what's that called?
Spool sensitivity.
Spool set. Yeah. So that's all you adjust the spool sensitivity. That's all you adjust, and it's been, fingers crossed, absolutely bulletproof so far.
Well, we sort of discussed it. I don't know if it was last year or maybe early this year about how you look at some of the videos of the American guys and them bombing crankbaits a long way with baitcaster reels, and you sort of, the more videos you watch, you start picking something up. The one thing we all picked up was that, which is the synonymous sound with the DC reel of the reel doing what it's meant to be doing. So if you do watch any American videos and you hear that zing, it's a DC reel.
Yeah,
So Andy got this with the idea with that in mind, really, didn't you?
Yeah. So I really want Perch Mania soon, and I'm going to be doing a bit. Actually, by the time we need to talk about video. By the time this video's come out, Perch Mania would have been. Yeah. And I'm going to attack the tournament with my fixed spool setup because I've got it like Tom Hunt says, it's a system. Yeah. I've got the right braid, the right rod, the right reel. I know how deep these cranks go, but I am going to start playing with this as well, and I'll be interested to see how my distance is reduced in casting with this compared to the fixed spool. Yeah. And having already done a few sort of tests on Haddonfield, the difference is not much. No. And because it's on top with the baitcaster, I'm thinking my sensitivity of retrieve is going to be better than a fixed spool.
Plus, there's something, and it's people. When I tell people this, they think, "Ah, it's ridiculous. That can't be true." You get more casts per day with a baitcaster because you're not opening the barrel arm, casting, closing the barrel arm. It's all one-handed. So it sounds ridiculous, but over a day that ends up to certain many more casts, which means you've got certain many more opportunities to catch a fish, which if you're doing serious tournament angling, that extra 10 casts a day that you can get in makes a difference.
If you're grinding, I mean, it depends what we're doing.
Of course.
The thing as well is it's going to be a joy to catch a big perch on that rod. I can't get over how good that rod is.
Yeah.
I think they're retail about 200 quid, I think.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, or 200, but it's just, with that reel, it's absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
Now, I would have never have tried to use a baitcaster with cranks in a tournament.
No.
Because it would just be a waste of time. You're gonna force the issue, get an overrun, and waste time. Yeah. But I shall take it along with a fixed ball and compare the two.
Well, at least you know you've got the Old Faithful to fall back on.
Well, I'll start off with the Old Faithful.
Exactly.
And then once we get into the lead, power ahead. No, because you can't get on these places and practice beforehand. I just want to give it a go. But you've given it a go. It just looks like it's the real deal.
It feels like it's going to work. It feels like it's going to do what you want it to do, and that's the most important. And like I said before, everyone's individual. Some people's style will lean more towards fishing with a fixed ball. Some people's style will lean more towards fishing with a baitcaster. But there's certain applications where I think one is better than the other, and they're pretty.
Let's go through it now.
Yeah.
Start at the top with the heaviest gear. What we're saying?
Baitcaster. It's got to be.
Got to be.
Got to be.
You can't use a fixed ball.
No.
If you use a fixed ball, you're running the risk of injury, aren't you? And also, you're not fishing. Casting is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
You're going to get halfway through the day, and your fingers are going to be red raw unless you've got a braid.
And you're going to lose distance because you get that ping, that where it hangs up on your finger a little bit. You are going to lose distance. So if you do need to ping it, I mean, you're not going to ping these big lures a really long way. But if you want to get that needs that extra 10 foot that you're going to lose for it pinging off your finger, that's where the baitcaster comes into its own.
So baitcaster. Then as we drop down, fixed ball.
To what sort of weight? Sort of mid, like 14 centimetres.
14, 16, 18 centimetres.
Yeah, fixed balls. I think for me, I prefer it at that sort of thing. It depends on what we're talking about. If we're fishing, that sort of thing, then probably.
And even smaller.
Yeah.
Fixed ball. I use fixed ball and all the other. So when I come down, fixed ball all the way.
But then I quite like fishing. If we're talking off of reservoirs now, we're talking rivers and canals and things. I like this sort of setup for that 10 to 15 gram, like dragging stuff. So jigs, Texas rigs, Carolinas, that sort of thing. I like it for that slightly heavier light stuff, if that makes sense. So like the upper end of finesse before you get into stuff that's a bit bigger.
So you'd use a baitcaster?
Yeah, I do like that, and I like to go fluorocarbon straight through, but quite a heavy fluorocarbon.
That's what I wondered if this would work.
Yeah,
but I really want to try it with the plug fishing.
It's really the plugs. Yeah. It's really nice because it all. So when you're dragging something, as you know, with a fixed ball, your hands on top, and you're sort of in the wrong angle to move. With this, it's all balanced. You just lift, it all falls, and you catch up with it.
Well, another application as well is when I'm using this, I don't use the handle. I use the what's it called?
Star drag.
I do it with my finger.
Just catch up the slack.
Catch it. So if I can
ding.
That thing I keep hitting is actually the light. So the star drag here.
Yeah.
I actually spin it around my finger, and I hardly use this at all.
Yeah.
Only time I use that to catch a fish, and BFS is hardly ever anyway. So it's not designed to catch a fish; it's designed to annoy and frustrate the living daylights out of you. Yeah. But you're right. So you could do the same with a slightly heavier setup.
Yeah.
But with the bait cast, I don't know if the bait cast would be so easy, so good at. You need a high quality reel. Mm-hmm. I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only problem with it. I've got a really nice BFT baitcaster that I can't use downstairs.
Yeah.
No, I've got one downstairs that I can't use. Not I can't use because it's downstairs.
Yeah, you got it downstairs, but
I can't get it on the right rod.
Right. What is it? A heavy one?
No,
a light one.
It's probably the same sort of size as that, but obviously not DC.
Right.
And the amount of tangles, I can't get on with it.
Really?
Yeah. So I use it for vertical.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's perfect for vertical. Yeah. It's really light.
Yeah.
And that's another application we haven't spoken about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I think that for me, I'm on baitcaster for vertical, without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt.
So we're using baitcaster for everything apart from what?
Middle to upper weight stuff, I suppose.
And I'm using a fixable reel if I'm on a big water, windy, even with little Chebs and Texas rigs.
I tell you the other time I will use a fixable super light. Well, it's 2 LRF, like we said earlier. I do use a fixable if I'm fishing super light. Trout fishing.
You heathen.
I know.
You should be using the fly.
I know. But if I'm using a lot, well, so actually, I'm going to caveat that. Stream fishing for trout, I would prefer to use like a BFS, a short BFS setup, like a 5.5, 6 foot rod, because of the shortened handle, shortened rod. When you're in wading, it just makes more sense. But for sort of like the reservoir trout fishing or area style, anything like that, it's a fixable because you're pinging. You can't, again, most of that sort of fishing, you're fishing sort of comp style. You don't want to be messing around with tangles and things like that. So it's just easier to be able to fish a fixable. And usually you're fishing uber light braid, like 0.2 PE, like really, really light. So it doesn't work. It does work, but who can be bothered?
So I'm thinking then I'm going to recategorise these then. So if I'm in a comp, I'm using fixable all the time, apart from for my heavy lures and my vertical. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then for my pleasure fishing, I'm going to try and use a baitcaster where possible. I think that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Because
there's not as much pressure.
And also it's a more fun way and enjoyable way of...
But don't you think it's funny if you look to the States, how baitcaster seems to be their reel of choice and there's certain occasions they use a fixable?
Have you not noticed though, these, like watch Scott Martin videos, the last 2 years they're drop shotting a lot and they're using spinning rods a lot more with other applications.
That's what I was going to say. The only time they tend to use a fixable is like the uber finesse stuff, like panfish stuff. So whether it be for crappie and bluegill and smallmouth, drop shotting for smallmouth and stuff like that. But it's I reckon if most largemouth fishing is equivalent to our heavy perch fishing in weights and things like that and sizes of baits. So I can understand where, you know, if they're not fishing these big reservoirs, they have to bomb things a long way. Most of it's quite
using
intimate.
ounce jig heads. You can get away with that with a baitcaster.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
They're using 28 grams plus the weight of the bait.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
they're even using half. So when they're using really heavy leads most of the time.
So it's something I've not done much of, and I wonder. I have done a little bit actually. Now I think about it, top waters with a bait casting reel. I know you've done it. You've probably done it for muskie, but it's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah, you've got the weight of the bait's big.
Yeah, but I've never really thought about it because it's that nice. It's in your hand, like bump, bump, bump. Actually, it's quite comfortable.
Yeah,
I can see that. I can see that working.
That might work with that reel I was on about.
Yeah, might do. Yeah. Well, so when I say I haven't done it, I have done it. There's actually a picture. I'll try and send it to you before this goes out, so you can overlay it. But it's a picture of me with a bass that I caught on a top water using a Shimano Yasai pike rod and an Abu Garcia Silver Max reel, like bait casting reel, and that was what I used until it died through salt water.
And that's the problem, isn't it? Be interesting to know everyone's views are on this.
Yeah. If
you're a beginner, stay with fixable reels.
Yeah.
And just get yourself going.
Yeah.
But once you start getting into this marvellous world of lure fishing, baitcasters are awesome. I just wouldn't be without them. And that DC, it's a really expensive reel. The only reason I got it is I had a voucher and I thought, I want one of these. Yeah. And it hasn't been used much, but I'm looking forward to getting it out this winter. And I think it's going to be great fun catching these perch on it. And that, I think that's the other thing. What we got, talking about baitcasters as well, how do you play a big fish on the clutch?
How do you mean? On a baitcaster? Yeah. Well, so are you talking about this heavy gear?
I do now.
You thumb it, don't you?
Yeah.
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 I've seen you do that. It's terrifying.
What?
Well, you've got to have it locked up, haven't you?
I lock everything up.
Yeah,
Fixed spools are locked up. Yeah. Everything is locked.
So you fish on the back line 90% of the time on a fixed spool. You don't use the inbuilt drag at all.
You saw me catch Lake Challenge. I had a 104 pike on an incredibly thin gear, didn't I?
Yeah.
If I had been using the clutch,
you'd lost it.
That would have snapped. That was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And how I didn't get a broken finger, I never know.
Yeah,
but it was really going off a rate of knots. And I just don't trust clutches because there's no clutch on the planet that would have reacted to how that pike went. So I don't like using the clutch on reels. I like to bat wind. Because I was a match angler, we used to bat wind all the time back in the day with these reels. And that's how I've done it for years. And it's a natural thing for me. Whereas I think a lot of people use the clutch.
Yeah, I think most people do nowadays. Yeah,
but to use the clutch, you have to use quite heavy braid.
Yeah,
or mainline.
Yeah,
To allow that initial shock.
Yeah.
So what I do is I lock everything up, and you see me do it on different
clicks
things.
it into free spool, and then just uses his thumb to control the spool. Terrifying. I'd let go of it by accident and end up with an overrun.
Oh, it's brilliant fun. The only problem is when you get a really big pike and it goes, sometimes the free spool jams.
Yeah.
So you have to use your other hand and be really...
Yeah, because you've got so much tension under it.
You have to be brave and just do it. But that's having a proper fight with a big fish.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you always direct it. That's the other thing. I feel like when you're fighting a fish on a baitcaster, you feel in more direct contact.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It all feels like it's an extension of your arm rather than... Like, you look how I'm holding that, so it feels normal. When you're holding a fixed ball and it's like this and you're gripping it, it doesn't really...
I do the same with BFS.
Yeah.
I thumb...
Yeah.
If I get a decent fish on it, I thumb it.
If you haven't heard, Andy likes to thumb it.
But it's just it's the best. If I lose something, it's down to my own
I know what you mean.
Of my thumbing technique.
Yeah.
I wonder how many other people do that.
Not many. I haven't seen many. So you see videos of the musky guys. A lot of musky guys do that because they're locking up and they need to set the hooks like that.
I think that's where I've learned it from.
Probably.
Hook set's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And secondary to me is getting the fish in.
Yeah.
But I just use my thumb.
Yeah. Very interesting. Leave a comment, guys, if you do that. I don't think there's many people that do, but you might be on your own with that.
Nah, there's got other people that do it.
I don't think there's many. I genuinely can't think of anyone else that does. A few people backwind.
When you first saw it, did you laugh in your head or just think, what?
No, I knew what you was doing. I knew the reasons why you was doing it as well. I can't do it. I'm terrified. I'm terrified of losing fish. It's not in my blood to do it. But you've been doing it for long enough that you've got confidence in it. I haven't.
Yeah, just comes second nature.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting this winter if I'll do the same on that.
Yeah. Well, it's all the same idea, isn't it? I suppose. Yeah.
Set the hook and then better go get the old thumb warmed up.
Yeah. You hope.
Oh dear.
You're catching fish, the friction will keep your thumbs defrosted.
Yeah. Right, guys. So what we're going for? Is it our baitcasters for show and our fixed spools for pro, or is it literally the right tool for the right application?
I think there's an argument for each, but I think what we sort of came to a conclusion is if you don't want any messing around for 90% of it, it's going to be a fixed spool, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, in the comp, I don't really, apart from every year, because that's the way to go anyway. It's not the best approach.
Yeah.
Right. We haven't mentioned this. We should have mentioned this 2 videos ago.
What?
We have now been pumping these out every other week.
Right. Yes.
And we should have mentioned it in episode 13, and we forgot. And then we should have mentioned it in episode 14.
But we forgot.
Mainly because we've been doing this all in one day again.
Yeah.
And to try and get around that problem and trying to hit more seasonal things that are happening or more topical things, we've decided now to do a video once every 2 weeks. That means we haven't got to record in multiple batches.
Yeah.
So we can actually now
Keep a bit current.
This is going out beginning of September. So now we've got Perch Mania, the Xander Madness, opening of the Resies to talk about. So there's so much more going on that we can now get current with over the next few videos. So that will explain why we've done it bi-weekly?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Fortnightly.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense. And we're going to keep going until we run out of steam.
Yeah. Till we run out of ideas.
So for those 3 people that are still listening, thanks for your support.
You mean everything to us.
Right, buddy. Is there anything else that you would like to
mention? We've pretty much covered it, mate. I will probably have these by the time this comes out. But next episode, I've been promised some lures for us to show. And they're being dropped off at Honeyfield this week. Ooh. So we'll have these for the next time we record. But that's all.
Any more?
A bit of foreshadowing there, but I'm not going to tell you any more than that. But it's exciting.
Freebies?
Yeah. For me.
Right.
Okay, let's leave it there.
See you soon.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.